The newest generation of play-by-play men to call the action on Monday Night Football, as we had him on when he was announced as such. Sean McDonough back here on The Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Sean?
I'm doing great, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. That music just gets can you believe it? You're going to be talking underneath over that music or over that music on Mondays, Sean?
I still can't. I was smiling and laughing while I was on hold listening to that, and I thought I was going to hear it in my headset a week ago, but as we know, that didn't happen. I can give you a scoop. John Gruden right now is at the Coliseum as we speak, painting the logos on the field
Very good.
to avoid a repeat of last week. So
now
we should be good to go.
Can I use that as an exclusive, or do we have to give that to the ESPN assignment desk first, Sean? I just want to
use that as an exclusive. I blame you. I think you had something to do. You know, you were finished with your many responsibilities of the Hall of Fame, which you handled very well, and I think in some way you must have sabotaged the field.
Well, I saw Hasselbeck after the ceremony Saturday night. I handed him a can of paint and say, "Do with it what you will." And then I get off the plane Sunday and I saw what happened. Where does that rank in your career, Sean? Have you ever had a game that got called for something like that ever?
No, I've had strange things happen. One of the first TV games I ever did was in the Empire State Games back when I was in college, and the state championship soccer game, they were about to start. One team had red jerseys on, the other one had orange, and the referee decided that the uniforms were too close together in terms of color, and he couldn't tell them apart. So he brought out green pullovers with no numbers on them and put them on one of the teams. So as I'm sitting there announcing one of the first things I've ever done on TV, I could not identify anybody on one of the teams. So things happen from time to time. But, yeah, I really felt sorry for the people, you know, Rich, because you were there, who, spent a lot of money to come from all over the country, airfare, gas, whatever it was, that they drove themselves, hotel rooms, tickets, and then that happened. And I'll have a chance to broadcast hopefully many more games, but a lot of those people saved up for a long time to get there and wound up with something that never should have happened.
Yeah, Sean McDonough joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, what's going on with the Cowboys backup situation, which, you don't normally sit here and go, what's with the backup quarterback? But when you've got Romo having a surgically repaired shoulder for now the second time in 3 years, it's a different story. What are you hearing from the Cowboys as we're going to see the game on Saturday night with you?
Well, we went up there to Oxnard a couple of days ago, visited with them. Tony actually did more in this offseason than he has in the last 3 or 4. He had a little surgery on his collarbone, shaved it down a little bit. He had kind of a weak spot there, and that's why it kept breaking in the same spot. So he's optimistic that he has shored that up, and he said that surgery in March will only cost about 2 weeks of throwing. So he looks good, feels good. They're going to play Dak Prescott a lot, the rookie from Mississippi State, who John Gruden had for one of his Gruden QB camps, and he really likes him. Big, strong guy who can run, dual-threat quarterback. And then Jamil Showers, who was sort of an all-purpose guy last year, played offense, played defense, but he wants to be a quarterback. They're going to give him a long look in this game. He'll probably play half the game, but I think if they get into this game and they don't feel comfortable with those two guys as the backup, they're still planning to go out and get a veteran toward the end of training camp to come in and back up Romo.
I don't know. Who would that even be, Sean? Are you hearing names being bandied about?
No, not really. I think they're going to look around the league as guys get cut and see who they think is serviceable and would fit what they're trying to do, and then grab that person accordingly.
Sean McDonough going to call Cowboys at Rams on ESPN Saturday night here in the Los Angeles Coliseum area. It's unbelievable that football is going to be played in the National Football League in that Coliseum. And now Goff. How much are we going to see of him Saturday night, do you think?
Well, he won't start the game. Case Keenum is probably going to play the first 2 or 3 series. We talked to Jeff Fisher yesterday down in Irvine at their camp, and he said Case would probably play 2 or 3 series. And then I think Goff would play the equivalent of half the game, probably the second and third quarter. I think he still has a ways to go. If I had to bet based on what we saw yesterday with a month to go in the regular season, I'd say it's probably less than 50-50 that he'll be the starter at the beginning of the year. They have confidence in Case Keenum. They won 3 of their last 4 games with him last year, and I don't think they want to throw this guy into the fire given all the hype until he's really ready to go.
Yeah, I know, and the Hard Knocks reveal of some of the things about Goff's greenness, I think, caused a few people to have pause. What do you think of Goff? Obviously, you've been in the college game before getting the Monday Night Football gig. What do you think of Goff's readiness to take the reins of a pro offense in the first year of the Los Angeles football return?
Yeah, well, there's a lot to learn, in this day and age of college football with all the no huddle, guys never being in a huddle, guys not taking a snap from under center, guys really don't have to call plays with the kind of lengthy terminology that they do in the NFL. There's a lot of that stuff to learn, just the mechanics of getting the play in and executing it. So I think he has a ways to go. And, they're kind of in a tough situation because obviously they didn't trade half the world away to have him come and not play for a long time. So I think there's some pressure to get him in there sooner rather than later. And you're talking about a regime here with Les Snead and Jeff Fisher, who, heading into their fifth year, haven't made the playoffs. Les told us yesterday, we're competitive now. We're beating teams like Seattle, and they were 7-9 a year ago. You watched the Hard Knocks thing. You heard Jeff Fisher say, "I'm tired of 7-9." So Les says, this is now about contending. It's not being competitive, and I think this regime needs to win now. They inherited a really bad football team, but this is year 5, so I think the expectation is they better compete. They're kind of all tied themselves to Jared Goff.
Well, yeah, but Gruden loves Goff, right?
Yeah, he does. But I think he would, a lot of what I'm saying is echoing what John said when we watched practice yesterday. And who knows more about what it takes to be ready to play quarterback in the NFL than Coach Gruden. So, I think he thinks. And, if you look at Jeff Fisher's history, he had Steve McNair when he was a high draft choice, Vince Young. He's had guys, and he hasn't just jammed them in there on opening night for the sake of doing it. He said yesterday, and I believe him, that they're going to be patient, and they're going to put him in there when they think he's ready and not before then.
And in the years of, calling college ball for the last several years for ESPN, doing a lot of Big Ten games. So Wentz, probably didn't call a Wentz game or even a Paxton Lynch game, but Christian Hackenberg, I'm sure you've seen. Did you see he didn't get any snaps last night at all, Sean? For the Jets.
I didn't see that, but
what do you think of his pro readiness, Sean? What do you think he can do?
It's hard for me to say. I actually know that I did not do one of his games in person. I've seen him several times on TV. I do know, watching them on tape a lot as I was preparing for other Big Ten teams, that I thought that for a major college football team, that was one of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen. So I thought it was hard to judge Hackenberg completely because he was under duress. And I'd say the same thing for Goff. John and I watched a lot of tape of Jared Goff's games, and he took a beating in college. You have to admire his toughness because he was getting whacked on a high percentage of his throws. So, that's one thing they know for sure. He's courageous and he'll stand in there and take a hit.
Sean, thanks for the time. It was great to see you at the Hall of Fame. I know I saw you in the museum. You were seeking out your dad's name on the wall for the McCann Award that Mort won this past year. That must have been a neat moment for you.
Yeah,
Sean.
It was. It was kind of doubly emotional. Unfortunately, my dad's no longer here, but I know he'd think that this Monday Night Football thing was pretty cool. We spent a lot of time together when I was a little kid watching Monday Night Football together. That's one of the best memories of my childhood, really. And, knowing everything that Mort's going through, it's a special weekend in a lot of ways. Very emotional. And it was great to see you, man. You did a great job with all that stuff. And,
Sean, that means the world for you to say that. Thank you.
That's the truth.
Have a great time calling the games this year. We'll catch up with you during the season, but have a great time Saturday night in the short term.
Thanks, Rich. We're going to check on that pain on the field as soon as we can.
You got it. Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Sean, for that. Sean McDonough with that exclusive.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.